Basically, a lot of this draws on Bakhtin's insight that all language use is dialogic. You're always responding to what has been said by someone else, or expecting, framing what you say in the expectation that other people will react to it. Okay. And that's very clear with appraisal. The way you evaluate depends on what other people have done. Sometimes, in a sense, at the level of the culture. How you might go about evaluating, what you might evaluate, the values you use will partly depend on the culture. And what is culture for each individual? Culture is not genetically inherited. You find the culture, you are enculturated by language particularly, by other things, visuals, behaviour, etc., but especially by language, by what other people have said or written before that you then come across, you're exposed to. And when you are producing your language, you're both, as it were, looking back and saying, well, that person said that, and unconsciously I accept that, or I disagree, and thinking, what are my audience going to say? How are they going to react? I may need to negotiate. Now, monogloss basically means trying, pretending that dialogue doesn't exist. It does. All language is dialogue. Unless we're talking to ourselves, and even then, we are our own audience. My mum wanders around, she lives on her own, she's 93. She wanders around talking to herself all day. But she is her own audience. And I think she's really practicing what she is going to say when one of us visits her. So even apparent non-audience oriented speech has an audience. So monogloss just presents the language as if there was no possibility of anything else. So if you just say, this is wonderful, you're evaluating, but it is monoglossic. There's nothing in your language which admits the possibility of anyone else having a different view. Of course, you may know they do, but you don't show it in your language. So, Twilight is the best film ever because it's the never-ending story of love. It's taken from our website. So that does not admit the possibility of alternative. On the other hand, heterogloss basically means, if you like, dialogic, means there's a possibility of another voice. Now, you may, as it were, think there is going to be another voice, there are other possible views, but I want to show that I want to close them down. So I accept that they are there, I admit they're there, but I don't want them, essentially. So it recognises dialogical alternatives, but acts to challenge or restrict them. Twilight is not the best film. I'll come back to this, but the negative is crucial, and in fact, this occurred, these were all in the same website, where people, I think it was, Twilight is the best film ever because, finish this sentence. Okay, so, adolescent girls, I guess, mostly, would, do you know Twilight, the series? Mm-hmm. I didn't, but then I'm the wrong generation. They filled it in, and one of them was the first example. A few cases later, we have Twilight is not the best film, which is clearly dialoguing with the instruction. Twilight is the best film because, so it's telling me to say why, and I'm then contradicting it. But by contradicting, by saying it's not, the writer there is at some level admitting, well, can't not admit it because it's above them on the page, in the web page, admitting that someone else has said the opposite. This can often be explicitly dialogic. Did you have the film Life of Brian here? Yeah. In that, there's a scene where a lot of people think that Brian is the Messiah. And they're all outside his house shouting, Messiah, he's the Messiah. And his mother, who's played by a man, his mother opens the window and shouts out, he's not the Messiah, he's a naughty boy. Where the not the Messiah is clearly actually responding to using the other person's words. But even when that doesn't exist, the negative implies, as I say, someone somewhere out there thinks the positive. Lord of the Rings totally beats Twilight Spark all the way back into non-being. That bit is actually monologic. Okay? So this is basically, if you didn't have the first bit, Twilight is not the best film, this would be the dialogue of the deaf, shouting at each other to say, no, this is best, not admitting the other person's view. Expand, then, makes allowance for dialogically alternative positions of voices. So, Twilight may appeal to a younger audience. That opens the possibility that some people might think, well, I'm not sure. Does it? I like Twilight, and I'm not a younger audience, or whatever. So, the may opens the possibility of other voices. And you remember I said at the beginning, traditionally, modality and evaluation have both been seen as personal, by not being sure. In fact, modality is interpersonal. It's to do with negotiation. Okay, so those are the three basic dialogues. Everybody okay with those? Do, as always, stop me and ask any questions or make any comments. Okay, so on the one hand, we have monogloss. Well, this is a great film. Of course, in one sense, that is projecting, as I said, it's an evaluation. I want a reaction. And of course, at some level, I know that other people may not agree. But that bit of language does not, as it were, show expectation of disagreement, or even agreement. I want you to say, yes, wonderful, I like it too. But it doesn't actually show that this is part of the dialogue. Whereas as soon as you get, it can be argued though, that this is, see that who's going to argue? If we have a verbal process, then we have to think, well, who is the sayer of this verbal process? Could be intended to be the speaker, the writer, or it could be other people think this, but I don't. But it's allowing other voices in. To my mind restricts it and basically says, well, this is my view. It allows quite clearly the option someone else might have a different mind. Again, slight detail. One of the times you can use I or we, meaning we the authors, in academic writing is precisely when you know that what you're saying is not yet accepted by everybody else amongst the community.
When you say
we meaning the authors, or I, you know, very often you're told,
yes,
don't use I in academic writing.
Right.
Well, you can if it's I, the researcher, so I measured. But very often we use passive or observation showed, so we nominalise. You can use I then sometimes. The other time when you can use I without